So now we're going to look at immunity. A couple of definitions to start with. A pathogen is the genesis of disease. So a disease-causing agent generates disease. Pathogen. Presence of pathogens that are multiplying is called an infection. Now, there's all kinds of different types of pathogens. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, which includes yeasts and molds, protozoans, which are eukaryotic single-cell organisms like Giardia, amoebas, things like that. Parasites, prions are all pathogens. And we need to have a defense against these things. And basically there's two subcategories of defense. There's the innate nonspecific defenses that protect us against just about everything. And then there's the adaptive defenses, the defenses that are specified for each individual pathogen. Now, the good thing about the innate is that it's very quick to respond. It's there all the time. It's nonspecific. So no matter what is happening, these defenses will aid. So this is just things like fever and inflammation and phagocytes that eat just about anything that's not supposed to be there. There's something called natural killer cells. There's various proteins, complement proteins, and things like that are chemicals. Plus just the fact that we have intact skin is all natural, innate defenses. The adaptive system is specific for specific antigens, for specific things going wrong. So the adaptive defense that protects you against influenza doesn't do anything against the measles. The adaptive defense against the measles doesn't do anything against, chickenpox, etc. So they are specific. It takes a lot longer for the adaptive immunity to rally but once it's there, it's very powerful. And very protective. So the nonspecific defenses, really, I'm not that worried about species resistance, but fundamentally, most pathogens have a host that they target. For instance, there's millions of viruses out there, then very few of them attack people. So like the tobacco mosaic virus only infects tobacco plants. Most of the pathogens have evolved and are adapted to a certain type of cell within a certain species. But they can jump from species to species. That's what they think happened with the COVID, and that it jumped from bats to humans. It's a pretty common thing for viruses to go from one species to another. So like the swine flu came from pigs and bird flu comes from chickens, etc. But most pathogens have a preference. Now, the closer there is to physiology between species, the more likely it is to jump. So pig physiology is very similar to human physiology, and so there are a lot of diseases that affect both pigs and humans. Less so with other animals. The best way to keep bad guys out is build a wall. Like they're trying to do south of the border. Keep the bad guys out. So you need an intact barrier, mechanical barriers, physical separation. So that is really unbroken skin and mucous membranes. And then the appendages from that, like nails and hair and scales and mucus, the chemical composition of sweat. It's the first line of defense. Keep the buggers out. We talk about the first, second, and third line of defense. It's a little bit disingenuous because the first line of defense is the first one there, but it doesn't stop when the second line kicks in, and neither of them stop when the third line kicks in. So, like I say, slightly disingenuous. So there are chemical barriers. The fact that a lot of secretions are acidic and most bacteria don't like acid. I mean, that's why we pickle things, because putting them in vinegar means that they don't rot. There are definitely different enzymes that are secreted that help protect, especially in things like stomach acids and the stomach secretions. Saliva. Saliva has antibacterial properties. Right? There are some chemicals called interferon and complement that we will get into in just a couple of minutes. But the second line of defense has basically two chemicals. They're extracellular, non-living things, complement and interferon. Two types of cells, natural killer cells and phagocytes, and two processes, fever and inflammation. So we're going to look at each one of those in isolation. So the first of the cells is a natural killer cell. And the natural killer cell's job is to kill our own body cells that have something wrong with them. So if the cell, inside the cell is infected with a virus, or if the cell is old and malfunctioning, or if the cell is a tumor, a cancerous cell, then if it's recognized by the natural killer cells, which is a type of lymphocyte, that cell will kill, the natural killer cell will kill our own body cell and get rid of it. What it does is it comes up against and secretes this cytolytic substance. It's not called performing, it's called perforin, like makes a hole. It perforates, and that breaks down the cell membrane and kills it. Now, it is sometimes used against pathogens, but mostly it's against our own cells. Natural killer cells also promote inflammation.